Welcome to the first Sola Gratia CSA cooking class of the year. My name is Kaitie Adams, and I'm a veggie farmer turned tree planter who never lost their love for vegetables and cooking vegetables. I've been teaching seasonal cooking classes and canning classes and workshops on pickling and fermentation for about the past 5 years or so. And this last year has been hard for so many reasons, but I've really missed getting back in the kitchen and connecting with folks over the things that nourish us all, and especially around amazing Sola Gratia veggies. And I'm also John's wife, so I have a connection to the farm in that way, as well as just being an enthusiastic veggie eater. John, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm John Williams. I'm the farm manager at Sola Gratia Farm. I've been with Sola Gratia for 3 years. This is my 4th season at Sola Gratia, and yeah, it's been a wonderful honor to farm for our wonderful CSA and our market member or our market customers, and yeah, it's been a really great season so far. I can complain about the weather, but that's a classic farmer.
Every farmer can complain about the weather. The weather's never going to be perfect for farmers.
But no, it's been a good season so far. A lot of good vegetables coming out of the farm and filling the box. So, including
this beautiful box of produce that you all got this week, and this is the first week of the full season CSA, right?
Yep.
And what a phenomenal week of veggies. I thought that I'd just start with the full box and start taking things out just as you would at home. So I'm going to start pulling things out, describing what they are, and then John will provide some commentary. And then definitely check out the wonderful newsletter that has not only everything that's in your box, but also some great recipes and tips and tricks. So we have bags of loose mustard greens, which are one of my absolute favorite greens on the face of the planet. We have cut salad greens, which are a mix here. John, what's in this mix of greens?
So that's a relatively new mix for us. It's 3 or 4 different varieties of lettuce that have been bred to be grown as sort of a head lettuce, but that we can easily cut and turn into a salad mix, and has really worked well for us in the past about 2 seasons that we've been growing it. So.
And one thing I really like about this type of cut lettuce is it keeps for way longer in your fridge. So you might notice that it can stay for, we've had stuff in our fridge last up to a week and a half with proper storage. We have pea shoots, which I absolutely adore in salads, and we're gonna make some on pizza today. Bronze fennel, which is a favorite herb of mine that I'm pretty sure I convinced you to grow, right?
Yes.
I love it. Kale, curly kale, chard. A lot of people always ask, what do you do with chard? We're gonna talk all about that, as well as how to store it well. Collard greens. This is something that I didn't eat growing up, but have come to absolutely love as an adult, and I love growing it too. Head lettuce here, which is a star of the CSA box, not only in the spring, but also in the summer and the fall. Folks got 2 heads of lettuce this week. Oh my gosh, it's a never-ending box. Parsley.
and to note here that, this is more items than you guys got in your box this week. This is showing some of the options that were available to you. So don't be dismayed that your box didn't have as many items here, but it definitely shows you guys the range of choices that are given each week to our members.
Parsley as an herb choice. Scallions. These are cut and come again scallions, which I think I also convinced you to grow. Yes. You might often find scallions in the grocery store and they have the roots on them, but you can only harvest them one time. most folks come home, they chop off the bottom of the roots, they throw them in the trash can, or hopefully they go into the compost pile. But when you grow cut and come again scallions, you cut them basically right at the soil level or right below it, and then you can get 2 or 3 cuttings off of one plant, which means that we're keeping those roots in the ground for longer, and they're just as good. And then a cousin within the scallion family, garlic scapes. This is another star of the CSA box. So super seasonal item. And what the heck are garlic scapes, John? Wait, before you do that, I just got kohlrabi and then turnips and radishes. So what the heck are garlic scapes?
So garlic scapes are, you could classify them as like a byproduct or an additional crop that we can harvest off of the garlic that we planted last fall and is looking really good right now. And what a garlic scape is the flower off of the hardneck garlic. So around early June, it will put out this shoot out of the center of the plant, and it usually gets a curly-Q kind of action to it. But this lighter tip right here is, if you were to leave it on the plant, it would turn into the flower. And while it gives us an additional product to fill our CSA boxes and sell at market, its benefit of removing from the plant is it will put more energy towards making big cloves. Yeah, big bulbs of garlic, which last year we had some amazing garlic come out of our fields, and we saved the best of it to replant, and things are looking really good to having another great garlic season. So
awesome. Well, the first thing that I do when I get a CSA box is I come home and I just get everything out on the counter. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start washing things and breaking things down so that I can just reach in the fridge during the week and pull out exactly what I need. Thursday night is sometimes not the best time to do that because you're at work or you've been running around all day. But it takes not that much time, and you can honestly wait until the weekend to do a lot of this prep work. But we're going to start from the easiest things to prep and then go into the things that are a little bit more laborious. So we're going to start with our things that are already bagged and cut. So we'll start here with the lettuce. And the lettuce that you get in a bag from your CSA box is field rinsed. What does that mean, John?
So we do a quick rinse, or you could call it a wash, when it comes out of the field, and our major goal of doing that is to take the heat off the plant. Sometimes, especially like a day like today, the field gets really hot and the plants get really hot really early on. So we rinse it to cut the heat, and then we will sort out a lot of the weeds that may come in with the harvest, maybe a few of the bugs, but don't be surprised if you find a yellow leaf here or there, or a couple extra bugs that have come along for the ride. So we always encourage people to wash their greens at home to make sure you're getting it to a level of cleanliness that you want to eat it.
And even if you get a couple bug friends hitching a ride on your greens, that's a really good sign. That means that your food is coming from an ecosystem that's alive and that has lots of different animals, including bugs in it, and you can just wash them right off. So what I did when John was talking about field rinsing was I had a bowl of cold water. I just submerged all of my salad greens in that water so that any bugs or any dirt just kind of falls to the bottom and the bugs float to the top. Then you take it out. And I like this over rinsing it in a colander because oftentimes you'll just get dirt that accumulates at the bottom of the colander. Here it goes straight to the bottom of the bowl. So I know that the salad greens are going to be super squeaky clean. And if you have a salad spinner, you can put this lettuce next in a salad spinner. We want to keep the lettuce dry as possible. Moisture is the enemy of food, sometimes in the refrigerator, especially for greens. So we want to get them as dry as we can. So because I don't have a salad spinner, what I do is I take a tea towel, a white tea towel, and I lay it out on the counter. I take my greens out of the water, stick them on the tea towel, and then I just roll it like this. And then I'm going to stick it to the side and let it the towel absorb moisture while I move on to the next thing. Okay, the water is looking really clean, so that means that's another great thing about that kind of lettuce that John and the crew are growing. It grows upright, so it's a lot less dirty than head lettuce. Some head lettuces that will kind of splay their leaves out. Okay, next I'm going for mustard greens. I'm going to do those in the same way as I would with the greens, the salad greens. So you just get submerged, get a new towel. If I knew that I wasn't going to eat these mustard greens until, say, like Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, I'd leave them unwashed in my fridge. But I'm going to eat these fast because mustards are some of my favorite greens. So they get submerged, they're coming out. Sometimes salad greens are a little more tender, so I wouldn't squeeze them. Mustard greens are a little less tender, so you can give them a little kind of wring out.
And so this, longtime CSA members will be used to scarlet frill, the purple mustard. This is very similar. It's got a more robust leaf to it. Definitely has more of like a wasabi flavor to it. This is a new green variety that we've been trying out this season that grows a lot longer than the purple stuff. Do expect to see the scarlet frill purple mustard make a return this fall, but this stuff is holding up to the summer heat that we've already been seeing a lot better than the purple mustard has done for us.
This is going to get the same treatment. Just get rolled up and then put to the side. Okay, now I know that I'm going to want to eat salad like every day this week. It's kind of my go-to what I take for lunch, so I prep a big, huge thing of salad, and then I'll put stuff on top, like leftovers the night before, and that's what I take into the field with me when I'm working with my field crew. We have two beautiful varieties of lettuce here. John, what do we got?
So the purple one is a variety called Cherokee. It's one of our mainstay head lettuce varieties. Grows really well in the heat. Is a absolutely beautiful color. Wonderful head of lettuce that many area growers and growers around the country really rely on, and we are no different. It's one of our favorites. And then the green variety is Muir. That one's a little bit newer to us. I think we've been growing it for about 2 years now, or this is the second season, and it's another heat tolerant. Spring in the Midwest is really, it's a guessing game on if it's going to be a hot spring or a cool spring, so we really lean on those heat tolerant head lettuces so they grow longer, get bigger, are less bitter, and end up being a longer season than some of the more tender, or maybe not tender.
Ones that are easy to bolt. They're like, it's too hot, I want to die, I'm going to send up my seeds with a last-ditch effort, and then you get bitter lettuce. But if you do, occasionally you get a head of bitter lettuce, and that happens because it's summer, then you can just make a wilted bacon and lettuce salad. So bacon makes like anything taste better, and that's one thing you can do with some bitter lettuce. So since I'm prepping this right away, I rinsed it under the sink, so I had the faucet coming down through kind of all of the folds of the lettuce, and now I'm stirring them upside down so that they start to drain all of this liquid out. So if you were not wanting to prep a big salad, what you can do is leave it in your fridge as is. Definitely put it in the crisper And I also put paper towels or a tea towel at the bottom of that can start absorbing moisture, because moisture can be the enemy. And if you leave it in there unwashed, it will hold for at least 5 days. And one thing you can do to extend that shelf life is take the butt of the lettuce here. You notice it's starting to brown. That's just an oxidation process. It doesn't mean it's rotting or anything like that. What you can do is every couple of days, come through and just trim off that butt. So you'll notice that you might get some milky liquid in there. What is it, John? You don't know?
No.
It's latex. So plant material produces, some plant materials produce kind of the same sort of structure as latex. So now that these are pretty drained, what I'm going to do is, one, get a towel to soak up some of this liquid here. I don't want that in my salad bowl. And I'm gonna take a big chef's knife here. This is my favorite tool in the kitchen, is just a big knife with a nice handle that has a good weight to it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut about, was that 3 inches?
Yeah, 2-3 inches.
2-3 inches from the bottom, and I'll do that for each of my heads here. I don't necessarily, most of these lettuces don't have a strong core to them, so as long as you're chopping it up, then you really don't have to worry about having this like core to your salad.
The red one does.
Oh, the red one
Has
does have more of a core.
Yep.
But with this muir lettuce, I'm just gonna take both of these small heads, and I'm just gonna ribbon chop them like this. As you're chopping, be careful of your fingertips. Those can be important. I used to volunteer teaching kids cooking classes when I lived in St. Louis. And we would have 3rd graders that we just like set loose with real sharp chef's knives, because part of the program was empowering kids to know that they have the ability to cook on their own. And one of the techniques we used was called the claw and saw. So when you're cutting, you kind of make your hand into a little bit of a claw so that your knuckles are the only things that might get grazed by the knife instead of like your fingertips being chopped off. So now what we have are these nice ribbons, what might come in a chopped salad in a restaurant. And I'm going to throw this in this plastic container. You could also use, I like to do this because it's really easy, but you could also use a Ziploc bag. Ziploc bags are great for storing grains. But before I put that in, I'm going to put a square of paper towel in the bottom. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna start absorbing the water from the lettuce. So, you know, this is not super dry, so I need to make sure that something's sucking all that moisture out. So this is now prepped. If you have a salad spinner, this is a great job for the salad spinner. So paper towel on the top, paper towel on the bottom, and now this can go right in the fridge. If you're cutting a head of lettuce that has a core, you have 2 options. The first is you can take all the leaves off and then just ditch the core itself. So the great thing about cutting it this way is if you wanted to leave it like this, you could put it in your fridge already kind of chopped so that you had options for later in the week. So you could have lettuce cups, so you could saute up tofu or ground pork and make delicious lettuce cups. You could use them for burgers or sandwiches throughout the week. So I'm gonna leave it in that form because I like to have options. While I meal prep, I don't always know all the recipes of things I'm gonna make because I like to be inspired and I'm kind of lazy and I don't follow a lot of recipes. So what I'm gonna do is hopefully folks can see this, I'm laying them out in a single file row. So they're kind of touching each other. Because I don't have a salad spinner, man, maybe I should get a salad spinner. It'd be so much easier if I just had one. Okay. And then I'm gonna take a second Uh-oh, I'm out of towels. Oh, I'm going through them fast. Second towel, put it right on top, and then just roll it up and let that sit until I'm done prepping everything else. Okay, pea greens I'm gonna leave in the bag and just wash as I go. Peas are pretty tender, pea shoots are pretty tender, and they'll pretty much rot. So these are like wash and eat. So those can go back in the fridge. Okay, now we're on to these beautiful bunch greens. So I basically prep all the greens in the same way. And I'll use the collards as an example because they're the easiest to remove the stems from. So I'm gonna go ahead and you can run these underwater or you can dip them, whatever is easiest for you. If you notice that your greens are getting a little wilty in the fridge, one thing you can do is fill a bowl full of water and ice and then just dunk them in right before you're going to use them. And the water basically like makes them just like shoot up and come to attention. I don't know the science behind it, but I do know it perks up veggies. So for something like collards, these you can wash and leave in the fridge for a week, like no problem. Kale, you can wash and keep in the fridge for a week. Chard, same thing. They're just like rock stars. But for me, you know, having them already prepped and ready to go just makes making dinner so much easier. So here's my collard green. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold it by its stem. I'm gonna take my finger and I'm just gonna take the stem off like that. So now we have, it's kind of like U-shaped, and then I'll rip that in half. So you have these nice ribbons. This is kind of an enjoyable tactile experience for me. I just find a lot of joy doing collard greens like this. If you weren't cooking these down and you wanted to say like make a burrito wrap from these, what I would do is just take the stem off and keep that inner stem because you want to keep it nice wrapping shape. I like to blanch collard greens before I make them into wraps, but you can also eat them raw. Okay, so now I have this beautiful stack of collard greens. So I'm going to stack them all up like this, and I want my largest leaf on the bottom. So I got this stack, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll them up like a burrito. So I have this like fat collard cigar. And now I'm going to, the culinary term is chiffon them, but I'm just going to make them into ribbons. This is also a satisfying sound. When you're cutting, you want to go from the top and rock your knife back for a nice even cut. Okay, so then I usually, because I don't want long noodles of collards, what I'll come in and do is just cut right here in the middle. So when I'm storing collard greens, the way I like to do it is take a plastic bag. John and I reuse and reuse and reuse these Ziploc bags. And my mom is just like, why are you washing all those bags? It's because you can. Anyway, so I got my paper towel in here. You can also use cut up t-shirts or tea towels or cut up old sheets, anything to absorb that moisture. Just gonna throw them in the bag and then seal it up. If we really wanted them to last a long time in the fridge, we'd let them kind of air dry or use a salad spinner. Okay, next thing in the fridge. I'm gonna skip the kale because the kale is exactly like the collards. I teach another class called Eat Those Greens where we'll talk about lots of different ways to use kale, because you'll see kale a lot because it grows really well here in Central Illinois. Next I'm gonna do the beautiful rainbow chard. Love, 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 love rainbow chard. So same way, I'm gonna take the chard stems off like this. John, what do you like to do with chard stems?
Personally, get them into the compost, but
No.
there are wonderful things you can do with them. You have a great pickled chard stem recipe that you'll talk about in a future class.
Yes, that's right.
Um,
World famous sweet and spicy pickled chard stems.
Yeah. But yep, for me, it's a head to the compost, but you know, to each their own.
So we can, I'm gonna chiffon the chard the same way. So people sometimes don't like chard because they think it's bitter or they don't like the texture of it. It is a pretty fibrous green, but the more you cut it, the thinner you cut it, the more palatable it is for some folks. So maybe you go ahead and chop it up all the way into more smaller pieces like this. So when you chop it small, really great uses for it are in smoothies. Maybe use a lot more honey or a lot more fruit than you normally would. Or you can put it into frittatas, in your eggs. When I was veggie farming, almost every day for lunch, I had seconds chard and scrambled eggs because we always had chard hanging around.
Yep. For me, I always see it as sort of a spinach substitute. It has a little bit of a different flavor, but good for
Paper towel. Oh, here.
It has a little bit of a different flavor, a little bit more earthy flavor, but texture, how it cooks, it pretty much matches like a large leaf spinach, in my opinion.
Really good in lentil dishes, really great in soups, really good in chili. The beans and the spices make chard really great, and provide some like veggies for it. Okay, so now I got these chard stems that are just hanging around. John says they have to go to the compost pile, but I disagree.
I don't say they have to.
So these add some really good crunch when you're sauteing garlic and onions and peppers. So they don't have necessarily the sweetness of peppers, but they have the crunch of that. So if you are even roasting veggies or sauteing them, this is a great thing to add in. So oftentimes what I'll do is if I have chard in the fridge and there's stems that need to get eaten, I'll just cut them up and throw them in. So since we're prepping everything, this is gonna go into its own special container for sauteing. So that all you have to do when you have that next roasting, baking, or maybe not baking, you don't want to bake chard. I guess you could do.
You could.
You could do like a chard zucchini bread. It'd actually be really good. Chard and apples, like chard and apple salad, is awesome. So then this is just gonna go in the fridge because then I can just dump it onto a sheet pan or right in. It's kind of the perfect amount for like one skillet or one sheet pan worth of roasted things. So that's one thing. Boom, done. Okay. Next I'm gonna go on to our root friends. And the first thing I always do when I get roots in is I immediately cut off the tops. You don't want to store the roots and the tops together because what happens, John?
Well, the greens will continue to pull moisture from the roots, and you will end up with very squishy roots that will start going bad a lot quicker in the fridge. So yep, always want to take the greens off, but that doesn't mean you don't want to use the greens.
Oh yeah.
All the greens really have great flavor, great nutrients, and so certainly use it as an opportunity to get more produce out of your CSA box.
So turnip greens are like turnip greens, except they're smaller. So the turnip greens you might get in big bunches. They're just bred to be the big leaf. Radish greens are a little bit spicy, so they're great in pestos or other types of green sauces. And then kohlrabi greens are like collards because they're a member of the brassica family. I guess they're all brassicas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all brassicas. But each has a slightly different flavor to it. So these are all a bunch. What you can do is leave them whole and stick them in your crisper, which is what I normally do. So we can go ahead and do that with the radishes. We'll get those out later. The kohlrabi can go too, because I'm not going to break those down in this class. We'll probably do it in another, we'll definitely use them in another class this fall. So now I'm going to go on to our allium buddies here. Let's see, I gotta get a time check. I get rolling and woo! Halfway through. So for scallions, I love to freeze scallions. I often can't get through a whole bunch at a time, and scallions freeze really, really, really well. So I have a jar, a nice Grey Poupon jar, because we just save and reuse everything. And the bottoms seem to freeze a little bit better than the tops, but both do really well. So I'm just gonna cut them here.
And sometimes with the cut and come again scallions, you'll notice the bottoms starting to push out after a couple days in the fridge. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's the plant still trying to grow, so you can just trim off the bottom end and continue to enjoy your scallions for they'll stay good in the fridge for a week.
And they'll stay in your freezer for much longer.
Yep.
So these they freeze so beautifully, and you can honestly kind of like pack them in a little bit. And you shake them out of the jar right into your eggs or soup. I wouldn't do it with anything raw. You definitely want to cook them because they're going to release a lot of moisture once they start to thaw. These can go right into the freezer, and then we'll come back with these tops a little later. So garlic scapes. This is something you can also cut and freeze just like scallions. You can make this into just literally this in olive oil into a pesto, which is one of my favorite ways to preserve it. Or you can pickle them or preserve them in oil. If you do preserve it in oil, you have to keep the oil in the fridge because oil with plant material will go rancid and can make you a little bit sick. So I'm going to save these for a pesto we're going to make with all of these tops here. So I'm going to put those to the side. And then the rest of these, you can do the same thing as the scallions, but I'm going to leave them whole because these are going to make it on the grill later this week. So how do you grill these beauties, John?
Well, it depends on sort of what tools you have, and I mean you can grill them whole if you wanted to, or you can, if you still have some asparagus or something coming up in your gardens, you could cut it to a similar length with your asparagus and grill them up like that. But yeah, I mean, they're garlic scapes. I mean, you can really cook with them how you would green onions or scallions or leeks. They'll cook very similarly to other alliums, other sort of green alliums, I guess.
Okay, so now I'm on to the herbs, and I use an incredible amount of herbs when I cook, and I like to cut them up into big batches and just have them in my fridge ready to sprinkle. I, for some reason, get to like the end of cooking and I get frustrated that I still haven't like cut up the herbs. So I just try to make it nice and easy on myself. So we have the bronze fennel and the parsley here. So unlike basil, which you kind of need to leave outside of the fridge, these do great in the fridge. So you have a couple choices. You can go into these like containers with something that's going to absorb the moisture, like paper towel or an old t-shirt, Or what I often end up doing with my fresh herbs, because I'm lazy, is I'll pick them, I'll wash them, and then I'll throw them in a paper towel, like a tea towel like this. And this basil's been in the fridge for over 24 hours, but because it's been protected by this big thick towel, it actually is just now starting to brown. So this is another option for your herb storage needs. But I'm just gonna go ahead and throw these right into these containers so that they're just ready to go. Okay, so now we're gonna move along to kind of our first dish of the evening. So we've kind of gotten everything prepped, stuff's put away, and we're gonna use the tops of the kohlrabi, the radishes, and the turnips to make a tops pesto. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these out of the water and get them. You don't really have to worry so much about getting these super dry because they're going right into the food processor. But a lot of folks think that pesto is just for basil, but I make it out of literally anything. Anything green you can make pesto with, anything vegetative like that. So carrot tops are a great thing to make pesto out of. I like making like random herb pestos. Whatever's about to kind of go to seed in my garden, I'll go outside and harvest a bunch of it. And you can use olive oil, you can use avocado oil, you can use whatever oil you want. You just need that fat in there to help emulsify it. The water doesn't matter as much, but the more water you have in there, it'll start to separate once you make the pesto. But the basis of pesto is just green things, oil, and then you can add salt, you can add lemon, you can add mustard, you can add pepper, you can add crushed red pepper, you can add all kinds of things. I'm just gonna make a pretty simple pesto with these greens, olive oil, salt and pepper, and a couple of garlic scapes to give it a nice garlicky taste. So these are out of the water and sorted. You want to show what the water looks like, John?
So the water certainly has...
You gotta come over here.
The water is murky. You know, I can start to see some dirt on the bottom and a few little aphids or other small bugs that have washed off. So definitely, if you were doing more washing, this is probably a good point to switch out the water so you're keeping stuff nice and clean.
Okay, so I'm putting kind of stems and all in here, and I'm breaking up the bigger pieces. The kohlrabi leaves they're a little bit more fibrous. So I got my food processor. You can use a blender. You can do this by mortar and pestle. It would take a long time with greens. It's a little easier with basil. So I have all my greens in here, and I pack them in, and I don't follow a recipe, so I'm really sorry. I basically pack it in, pulse it a few times, pack more veggies in, pulse it a few times, then start drizzling in olive oil, and then I add my spices. But I'm going to go ahead and add 2 garlic scapes now, and I'm just going to literally break them up with my hand. Oh, they smell so good! I love garlic scapes. Those get thrown in there. A little bit more green.
And garlic scapes are definitely one, you know, to enjoy. If you like garlic scapes, don't wait. You know, we'll have, you know, we had it in the box this week. We'll have it likely in the box as an option next week, and that'll be it for garlic scape season. So it's a short season. Definitely want to grab a bunch when you can.
One thing you can also add, I don't eat dairy, so my Parmesan cheese substitute is nutritional yeast, aka Nooch. I love this stuff, and if you can use Parmesan cheese or any hard cheese, but I like to add this stuff. It gives it a little nuttiness, a little fullness to it that I really love. So I'm going to add quite a bit of that because I like it. I like it that way. So now I'm going to do my first pulse, and you can pause the sound now. I should have staged this a little better, but normally in a class, you know, you just like make funny faces during when you have to pulse something. So if I turn it on, you can see that, I guess you can't see it, but we're just starting to have it move in the bottom. So it's already started to go there. I'm going to push it down a little bit more. Now we're moving, and now I'm going to start using my oil and adding my oil. Now we're getting some good movement in there. I packed it too tight. This is what I always do. They always say, do it in batches. It's so much easier. But I'm lazy. I don't want to do it in batches. I want to do it all at once. Okay. Now we're going. John, what are we going to do with this pesto? Right up top.
You want me to pour it out?
Yep.
So, we have a puff pastry ready to go. And we're going to do a little sort of puff pastry pesto
Pizza.
Pizza, yeah. Super simple. And it's a really nice, easy meal to do during the week. Doesn't take too long to put stuff together. And there's something magical about puff pastry that really makes it amazing.
This is one of those like meals that after John and I have been in the field all day and they're really tired, like we can always be convinced to make a puff pastry pizza. Because it's so incredibly easy. We always have veggies on hand. They're always cut and fresh. Okay, so now we got our pesto. John, are you going to be our taste tester here and tell me what it needs?
Sure.
You're off camera. Not sticking John's mouth end back in it. Oh, guys, this is just us.
It needs
Needs more oil.
Yeah.
And it needs an acid.
Okay, yeah. There's definitely some acid. There we go.
So I'm just going to add a little bit of vinegar. You can add lemon. You can also add honey to it. I don't really like sweet pestos, but a lot of people, if they have bitter greens, will add that in. I'm going to go with a little bit more oil. And some vinegar. This is where I miss in-person classes, because then we can just have everyone taste it and everyone says what they need.
I feel like it needs more garlic scapes or something.
Oh, we can do that, baby.
I think it's...
We got scapes.
I want more of that garlic flavor, and so it's not too far off flavor-wise, but you can never put in too many garlic scapes, in my opinion.
Pesto also freezes really well. So you can make a big batch of pesto and then stick it in your freezer, thaw it out 24 hours before you want to use it. And then I also make a lot of dips and sauces with pesto. So I'll mix it with yogurt for like a veggie dipping sauce. And then I'll also mix it with like cashew cream Alfredo sauce, like a creamy pesto sauce. Okay, that looks right. Big thing of pesto. I think that's gonna be spot on. Spot on?
Yep.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So, easy meal. You got your pesto, you already made it, it's already coming out of the freezer. 24 hours in advance. You have your puff pastry. if you want, you can score it for to have a nice raised crust. Don't cut through all the way. Just give it a nice little cut, and that gives you a kind of like canvas to spread your pesto on. So we're gonna go ahead and spread it like so. Give it a nice thick layer of pesto. Johnny, want to get the cheese out?
Well, certainly.
Spread it out. During the summer, you can use tomatoes and make a tomato puree. But now we just have this fake mozzarella cheese that I love so much that's made of cashews. But you can definitely use mozzarella. Use real cheese if you can eat it. And then, ooh, we're gonna need our bronze fennel that we already prepped. Nice and easy peasy.
Where did I put it? There you go.
And then this is gonna go in the oven at 425 for 15 minutes. So if you already had the pesto made and you already had your herbs prepped, and you can put anything on this. Like if we would have cut down all those turnips, but we were running out of time, then I could have put these on slice, tomatoes, peppers, all these things. If you've already cut them up, then it's literally like from the fridge to the oven in 5 minutes. It's like the easiest meal in the entire world. We're gonna add one more thing when this comes out of the oven, but here we go. I wish I would have had time to prep the turnips, but we only got 14 minutes left, so I gotta be careful here. So that goes in. John, set a timer.
No.
Set a timer for
4:15.
Yep. So I go in for 15 minutes. And while that's waiting, I'm going to pull back out one of the things that we had already put in the fridge. And we're going to prep these for easy snacking and eating throughout the week. So John, I'm going to send you to wash those. When you're washing radishes, I like to use a veggie brush just to get the dirt off. They do a really good job of cleaning them at the farm, but there's always a little bit left because washing bunch things is kind of difficult sometimes. And so when I have things like all these roots that come in, like carrots, beets, during the summertime when there's solanaceous veggies, like tomatoes and peppers, I'll often just cut them so they're easy to grab and go throughout the week. And then it's easy to put on salads. Easy to put into stir fries, soups, put on sandwiches, all of these things. So I'm going to show you like kind of the basic prep so that you can make decisions throughout the week. So you can cut like once to break it all down, and then you have lots of options of how you might want to cut it smaller throughout the week. So we have our radishes here. So what I'm going to do is just take my knife, I'm going to cut the top, and I'm going to cut the tail. And I'm going to cut the top, and I'm going to cut the tail. I'll just do 3 because you will get sick of me saying top and tail. Now I have these nice little radish globes. And all I'm going to do to prep them is cut them in half. And that's how they're going to go in their container. So the reason I'm going to keep them cut in half is this gives me a lot of options of how I can use them throughout the week. To leave them cut in half is so easy to just use as a dip to snack on during the week. And then say I have all these prepped in the fridge and I want to take them out and I want to make quick-pickled radishes. Something that you can easily make on a weeknight. I'm going to come and thinly slice them into half moons. And since I've already cut them in half, we have a nice safe surface to do really thin little cuts with. When we have cooking classes in person, I can go over more knife things. I have these little half moons here. And I made a brine earlier. I boiled 1 part vinegar with 1 part water. For me, that was 3/4 water, 3/4 white wine vinegar, along with salt, 3 tablespoons of honey, 2 teaspoons of salt, and then there's peppercorns and mustard seed in there. Anyone who knows me knows I love a good pickle. John can attest. I pickle everything.
I have also certainly fallen in love with pickles a lot more. With the amount of pickles that Kaitie makes for our home, I used to not be much of a pickle eater, and now, whenever we get red onion pickles, I can't have enough. And, yeah.
So this brine that I mentioned, and I can send along to folks too, is great for any vegetable. You can pickle kohlrabi, turnips, onions, peppers, zucchini. If it has a lot more water content, like zucchini, you want to eat it right away, like in the next few days. But things like radishes and root veggies, carrots, those sort of things can stay fresh and crispy for up to 3 months with this quick pickle brine. So the vinegar is the preserving agent, and the salt is helping keeping it not only preserved but also pretty dang crispy. So I'm going to add my seasonal star garlic scapes, and I'm going to keep them pretty whole, like not whole, but in big chunks, because these pickled right out of the jar are like mind-blowingly amazing. So you might want to pickle just garlic scapes. So I have my little jar packed here, and all I'm going to do now is pour the brine in, and this is something I brought to boil and then brought back down to room temp. This is a jar filler. If you do a lot of pickling, I recommend it. And I'm just going to cover it to the top here. I didn't get any peppercorns or mustard in there, so I'm going to fish those out with a spoon here, if I can get it. It's not cooperating very well. And you can eat these within 30 minutes, but they're best if you leave them in for a week or longer. I love discovering pickled things that are left in my fridge. So these are awesome on salads, really great on stir fries, just like midnight snacking out of the jar. And if you start amassing like a ton of pickles, now that it's safe to do so, you can have your own pickle party and invite all your friends over and make them try all your amazing creations. And unless you have a friend that doesn't like pickles, they'll be very grateful. And then they can bring things that you can put pickles on. Love a pickle party. Okay, so we've done pesto. We have our pizza in the oven. We've done a quick pickled radish. And now we're gonna assemble my lunches for the week. So we have exactly 7 minutes left of our class. So we're gonna go over lunch prep for the week. So we already have our salad greens. That's good to go. John, if I can have you pull out the turnips and get those washed. I'm gonna keep breaking down these radishes here. So for storing these roots, you can either put them right on top of your salad and you can dish it right out during the week and put them in little containers, or you can have everything prepped and assembled separately, which is what I do. So I think it stays a little fresher that way. And stuff breaks down at different rates. So root veggies will break down a lot slower than salad greens. And when you mix everything together, sometimes you might hit these like pockets of things that are starting to go a little bit. And you want to start with a fresh salad all the time. So one way that I like to have veggies in a salad is not actually slices or full moons like this or half globes. I like to have little matchsticks. So for radishes, those are a little bit harder, but for turnips, they're really easy. And another reason I like to have matchsticks hanging around, by matchsticks I mean like really thinly cut, probably julienne, I think is the culinary term. I'm not professionally trained. Is that you can also use them for coleslaw, which is like a top 5 food for me. I eat a lot of coleslaw. So when I'm making matchsticks, what I do is I make a flat surface for myself. So I took the top and the tail off, got this nice flat bottom there, and I'm gonna do slices. So I got my claw, and I'm gonna make my slices here. I'm gonna make them pretty thin, but you know, it's your preference on how you like these matchsticks. So I got these thin little slices here, and then I'm gonna take the top of my knife and just slide it down. I'm gonna get my claw out. I'm gonna slide it down like this. And this is a little time consuming. So this is something you might do, you know, later in the week. So you take your tops and tails, you cut them in half, and then you leave them for another night when you might have a little bit more energy to come in and make these little matchsticks. These are also great for stir fries. What they look like, well, hopefully you can see, they look like tiny little French fries. And these are like the perfect crunches for salads. Okay, so now I got some matchsticks, and a little bit goes a long way for these beautiful turnips. How's our pizza looking, John?
Oh, it's looking great.
Looking great?
It might be ready just by the end of our class.
Perfect. That's how we like to do it. I'm a little rusty. I planned it out, but normally I have like things staged, like cut up and everything. But I'm a little rusty on teaching classes, so I thank you for bearing with me here as I get my bearings back. And I miss all of you. I want to be doing this in person. Because I learned, if you have other tips, drop them in the comments below. Because one thing I love about teaching classes is learning from other people. So I'd love to hear what you got going on. Okay, so we're gonna pretend like all this is prepped and I'm pulling it out of the fridge. I'm gonna get a couple scallions here. I love scallions on salad. Okay, so we got salad greens, please.
Which ones?
And the lettuce in the
These?
bowl. Oh my goodness.
Still in?
I forgot. They're still drying. Okay, now let's make our big salad bowls. Got our lettuce here. Let's get out the head lettuce. Chop, chop.
The mirror?
Yep. So now it's time for me to make my little meal prep salads. We don't buy Tupperware, we just order Chinese takeout, and then we have real Tupperware. It works great. So I'm gonna take my greens here, make my base. I just pulled these out of the fridge. And beautiful basil. Take some of that head lettuce in here. This is actually a smaller salad than I normally eat. I normally put this in a much bigger container. I love lettuce. You can have, sometimes, like, John kind of makes fun of me by, I'll make these like huge bowls of salad, like gigantic bowls of salad, but it's all lettuce, it's all good stuff. Okay, so I got my greens, pulled them out of the fridge. These we just prepped, you know, in the last 4 minutes or so. Can you get the herbs out for me?
Which one?
The bronze fennel, please, and the parsley. Beautiful. Herbs on salads just kicks it up a notch. A little parsley, little bronze fennel. Add a dressing of your choice, which we'll cover in the Eat Your Greens class. Lots and lots of different options. And it's the wrong lid, but it's like a 4-minute lunch. And then you're good to go. So if we wanted to have some little snacking veggies for the week, we can just take our prepped halves, throw them in here. You can also leave them whole. Oftentimes I won't even cut anything off. I'll just like rip the tail off with my teeth because that's kind of a farmer way of eating those. People make fun of you if they don't like they don't know what's going on. When I lived in St. Louis, I lived in the south part of the city and I farmed in the north part of the city. And I'd be driving home eating whole cucumbers and whole bell peppers and like bunches of radishes where I'm just like, eating them kind of like this. And people in traffic would be like, what the heck
You want me
is up with that girl?
break this down quick to add to that?
Sure. Yeah,
So,
you get on the board, John. I'm gonna make a dip in the background.
Kohlrabi is one of my favorite vegetables. It can be certainly a little daunting, this alien. It's an enlarged stem, technically. Fun fact.
Ooh, we're at 6:30, so we're gonna wrap up in like 2 minutes.
Okay.
But if you want to stay on, stay on.
So for kohlrabi, you want to peel the skin off. It's a little tougher than the rest of the kohlrabi. So I like to cut the top off, and you can also cut the bottom off. But work your way around, taking the skin off with the knife. You can try using a peeler, but I oftentimes find that the skin's a little tougher, and your average vegetable peeler is not as big of a fan of going through that. So I've taken the skin off. I still have the butt on. I can certainly take that off as well. And when you have these nice sort of baseball-sized kohlrabi, usually they're pretty tender. A lot of times people say you have to cook kohlrabi, but it's definitely one that when they're smaller, you can slice thin and eat raw, or you can cut it into a similar size shape as those turnips and radishes, and add them to your little vegetable medley cup. So, yep, that's the art of peeling a kohlrabi in what, 2 minutes? 1 minute?
1 minute.
Woo!
Well, our puff pastry is taking longer than it should take. How dare it? But while John was cutting up, I made a pesto and yogurt dip with just a little bit of the bronze fennel in there, which was another like 30-second thing. 10 seconds, I think it took. You just take your kohlrabi. Delicious. So, snack, lunch, dinners, all made, well, one dinner, with lots of different options throughout the week. So now that we have this CSA box, I think what we're going to have this week is grilled garlic scapes and an orzo salad with sauteed chard and some herbs. Super easy, super delicious. We'll have grits and greens, which is one of my favorite meals to make. So make a batch of grits or polenta. Kohlrabi down the throat. Make a batch of polenta or grits, and then saute up greens with mushrooms. If you have a mushroom shears, they're a great thing to put in there. So garlic scapes, greens, onions cooked down, and then put the greens on top of the grits, and then you can do 2 fried eggs on top. You can add sausage, bacon, whatever you want. We'll have big salads one night where we just like put a bunch of stuff in a huge salad. And we got our puff pastry, and then we'll probably have enough left over, especially with these pea shoots, to do a really delicious stir fry. So all things that come together in less than 30 minutes, and they go together even faster if you meal prep your veggies. So I know we're over time, but
Oh, it's so close.
oh, it's so close.
So close.
But when that pizza comes out, I'll just fill you in on the secret of what we're gonna do. We're gonna add pea shoots and then a little drizzle of olive oil on top, and you're good to go. These are also amazing in salads. I kind of forgot about them. I'm really sorry. Pea greens. But these are amazing. Enjoy them throughout the week. Thank you so much for being phenomenal Sola Gratia CSA members. And I look forward to seeing you at a cooking class in person very soon. So have a wonderful first week of eating and enjoy all the abundance that early summer brings. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being great CSA members.
Tea time.